Happy holidays, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your man, Damon Cunningham, aka Dame D NYDC. It's Two Mics Up. And tonight we have a first here on Two Mics Up. We have crossed into a brand new horizon, the last frontier in America. We rocking in Alaska, y'all. How about that? And tonight's guest, who's going to be joining me on the other mic, is a very fascinating individual, podcaster, show host, journalist. I mean, she's really about giving, from the information that we were able to draw about her, everything that she does is all about giving. And she uses her platform in the same manner, the guests that she brings on, and really gives great interviews and great conversation. And I'm proud to be able to have her here with us tonight as we talk about all things Thanksgiving and more. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and have some fun, with me as I bring the amazing, the powerful Christinall Love to the other mic tonight. Christina, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there. I have to remember I'm in the evening here. It's probably mid afternoon, or afternoon still for you there, correct?
Yep, it's 3:41 p.m. here in Alaska time. So like East
Uh,
Coast is 4 hours behind. So I'm in the past, I guess.
yeah. Well,
Especially at
I'm
New
glad.
Year's.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you here in the past, but yet in the present, talking to us. And like before we really dive into, your show, your photography, your journalism, and everything else that you do, I have to start at the beginning, Christina, and just really ask you to give our audience some background about who Christinall Love is. More specifically, where you're from, what was your childhood like, and what was the most memorable thing for you to do while taking pictures? Because I'm trying to get all three in one shot because you have a fascinating background.
uh, okay. Well, my background, I guess I can say I'm not a normal family kid. I had a lot of trauma. That was my
Mm,
first name. So
wow.
between divorce of my parents, and then just abandonment, all kinds of, I think I've went through everything possible there
Hmm.
was.
Hmm.
So it helped me throughout the years to
Okay.
understand people in a different
Hmm.
light, and how to help them in a different way.
Right.
So, of course, therapy, mental health, and then physical health, and all kinds of mess.
Hmm.
God was just so great with me. Like I love God, but and I didn't grow up in the church, so that
Okay.
I was raised atheist as well. So it just like all, yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, it was that's and then drugs, alcohol. I don't know if I could say it, but I'm just going to say the two letters, the SA,
Hmm.
for the internet purposes.
Right.
Like,
Right. Right.
um, when I was 16, by my manager who was 33,
Wow.
and that was just not the only one that happened. So different things in my life happened. So I had
Hmm.
to endure that, and then I
Right.
still kept pushing forward. And I found out I was born with brain damage, mild, and so that
Hmm.
didn't help during my upbringing either. So
Right.
memory,
Right.
the whole nine yards.
Yeah.
Then I dealt with the weight gain, and
Hmm.
so dealing with eating disorders.
Wow.
And so I just had the bariatric surgery. I'm going on my
Mm.
seventh surgery in
Oh
the last
wow.
4 years. And I'm
Wow,
still going. So there's 7 and 8 coming up. So I got a spine surgery coming up,
man.
and then I have a rotator cuff issue. I still work. I still do photography. I still climb mountains. I still do all that. 8 days after surgery, I'm out. I can't be in the house. So
Really?
like, yeah. So like all that inspired me to do the photography. Photography for me is therapy. You know,
Wow,
I
I can imagine.
I yeah. So I didn't grow up technically in Alaska. I grew up
Mhm.
spiritually in a sense. You know what I mean? In that end.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, but I was born and raised in Germany, and
Okay.
came to Pennsylvania. I traveled around the world as a kid, so I never went to Disneyland or Disney World
Your world.
out here in the United States. Yeah,
Right.
but I went to Euro Disney. I went to the one in France. So I was
Probably bigger
there
and better
when
too.
Princess. Yeah, and I was there a couple days after Princess Diana had passed away, so I got to encounter that whole thing,
Experience.
and was able
Mhm.
to put a little teddy bear out at her thing,
Wow.
and oh yeah, so
So
much
much.
history to go through.
So I have to ask, just with all of that, right? Because it's unfortunate. I want I can't say sorry enough. I mean, for your life experiences and things like that. But how has these experiences really pushed forward in your life to where you are today? Like the fortitude and the strength to be able to bear so many traumas. What can you share or say to someone? Because, and this is the part that gets me the most. And I think, if you don't mind talking, someone may be watching this or listening to this at some point. And how did you break through and still be able to give and do all the things that you're doing in your life that are positive when so many give up, during these tough times?
Well, let's just put it this way. I wanted to give up.
Mm,
I had to go
mm,
through that process, especially
right.
throughout the grieving process. It didn't matter what
Mm,
kind of situation it was. And I had learned this just recently that I was going through grieving. So you have to go through that. You got to be angry. You got to be, just a whole, go through that. And then
everything,
once
the
you
whole
start
test list,
accepting
yeah.
it, it's yeah, you can't skip all those things. Learn that the
Yeah.
hard way.
Right,
so,
right. No.
so it even though back then as a kid
Mhm.
I did not know who God was, what God was, anything like that, right? So I knew, now that I know what I know now, I knew He was there with me. He's the one that
Mhm.
created me. He gave me the strength to keep moving. I get hit by a car, fly over, and I still walk over with
I
to
know,
go
that's
get my
right.
sister from school. You know what I mean?
I
And
know.
I wasn't believed by my parents about it being hit, but that's something He had spirit, instilled in me, was the
Right.
spirit to endure. And
Yeah.
then like when I finally met him after I gave birth to my son up here in my 20s, I asked him, I said, dude, I said, I just met you. What in the world? like how did I get all this stuff?
Yeah,
Like what
right.
did I do to you to deserve this? He goes,
Yeah.
he brought me into the laundry room and he goes, you're not going through for you. You're going through
Mm,
to help somebody else out.
that's
After
right.
that, everything switched on how I looked at life, but
Mhm.
oh, okay. So I took it as I'm going to be able to understand how a person feels in a different way. In a
Right.
and I can feel, when
Mm,
somebody, like, say if they went through a surgery. Some doctors, they didn't go through the surgery, but they have, it's like a peer support kind of
here's
thing.
yeah,
You know,
right.
I just somehow seem to, no matter what situation it is, I've helped people come off of the suicide marks out in the middle of the streets
Mhm.
or whatever. I'm like, listen, everybody's trying to get them off the streets. I'm like, listen, it is what it is. That's how I
Yeah,
literally say it. Like it
yeah,
is.
yeah.
I've been
No,
there.
it is.
I understand. Like I'm
No,
just straight point forward.
that's awesome, 'cause I think, everyone, like I said, everybody has a journey and everybody has a story. But like I said, I do believe that just sometimes hearing this from someone else who may be in a similar situation can shine some light or provide an inner strength for them to be able to get
Hmm.
through it like you have. And I think that's important. I thank you, you know, for taking a minute to share that part. And I have to ask then, it is the holidays and, understanding your upbringing and the things that you went through. And then you have your child. Did that change your approach towards what maybe holiday may have meant to you personally? And did you, start creating any type of holiday traditions or things with your family as you kind of broke through and came through on the other side and had your son?
Hmm. I tried.
Okay.
Um, holidays were traumatizing for me too.
Mm,
So
mm, got it.
but I had always this hope, and that's something my therapist always says. She's like, you had all this mess going on, but you always look for love, like just love
Yeah.
from
Mm,
anybody, your parents, whatever it is, not because
right.
I'm looking for a man or whatever, but it's like just looking for something. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, I wanted my kids. I gave my kids something I never really truly felt or had. And I guess
Right.
that's called agape love on that end,
Yes.
so,
Yeah.
and giving the people, I'm like, man, I wish I had this too, but it was healing me as well.
Right.
Something that was inside me, I was able to give and just put myself aside. So, like,
Mm,
the traditional turkey dinners or whatever, I do them not on the holiday, believe it or not. Like, I
okay.
do them like throughout the year, and I would have the neighbors come through. I mean, you come eat. I don't, now I can't, I got 3 minutes on up on my feet kind of thing. But, but I don't mind cooking. I'm a chef. So like, it's not a problem. I want people to eat. I want, the homeless to eat. I want all these, everybody has
Mm,
a life, and they have,
yeah,
we're supposed to give them dignity,
that's right.
and no matter where they're at, like, just, and then
Right.
it just upsets me when people, like, I always hear, is it okay to sit in the front of your car? Are you human? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's literally what I asked them. Are you
Right.
human? And they're like, yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, well, then you can sit in the front of my car, like in the front seat.
Mm,
That's fine. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
give them
Right.
dignity. They are a human being. So no matter what, I love the kids. The kids would come over to my house with the kids, and we'd all have a quote unquote Thanksgiving dinner throughout the year. I just chill on the actual holiday by myself. I don't
Right.
care. But my son and I, we would do that. We had our tradition. We'd eat the meal before the day, no matter what
Oh,
holiday it was. And then we
that's
just,
okay.
we just sit like a regular
Yeah.
simple TV dinner or
Eat dinner
something.
or something. And just
Yeah, like,
relax.
and watch
And just
movies,
relax.
and
Yeah. Enjoy
yeah, and
family
we just
time.
hang out.
I
Yeah,
love that.
I
I
mean,
love that.
it, we're just a little
It works.
untraditional than
It's
society,
and
but it works.
there's nothing wrong with that. And I wanna, I'm gonna toast you up because doing the things that are untraditional and doing the things that are a little different, there's nothing wrong with that. And it works. And I love to hear the fact that what you love to do for the kids and the community and different family members. That shows how giving you of a person you really are. And that leads me to ask then, what was your inspiration for you to create the Oil Runners broadcast? And maybe let's start back. First of all, what is the Oil Runners broadcast? And then tell us what inspired you to start it.
The Oil Runners broadcast is actually a broadcast where um, people can tell their stories or share
Mhm.
their gifts. And no matter what it is, I've had voice actors, people who've been divorced, people who have been with the cancer, whatever your story is, it doesn't matter how much money you make or if you don't make money, it doesn't matter, right? You're
Mhm.
a human
Mhm.
being and you have a journey, right? So it's there to help somebody else out because you don't know who needs to hear it.
Mm.
It's just another form, another platform. We all have
Right.
one. We're just utilizing the gifts, and then to help each other become a the best version of ourselves that we are created to be. You know,
Mm.
and And I always keep saying, like, of course, I mean, during that 2020 time, like right before it, because I was working in the hospital and I was writing things down while I was, cleaning some dishes or whatever. And I just had this piece of
Right.
paper. I still have it, and I just was writing stuff down, and it was the Oil Runners broadcast. I was like, oh, okay. I have no clue about, podcast, broadcast. I'm like, you want me to do what? Like, all right, well, we'll do whatever, and I was like, I don't even go on Zoom, and show my
Right.
face at church. Like, kind of,
Right.
I'm an introvert. What are you talking
Right.
about? I don't mind talking to people, right? But like, and helping them out genuinely. But I'm like, huh?
Mm.
So he was like, listen, because I was always in church and I've always heard testimonies, right?
Mhm.
And the way the testimonies came about is you had like the 2 minutes to talk when you come in. So like, and I was like,
Right.
wait, there's something missing, right?
Mhm.
And testimonies to me were always my favorite part, technically,
Right.
because
Right.
I like to know how you got that, like what is God doing for you? How did you
Right.
get out? My question is always how. So we all have
Mm.
a gift. So I said, let me make this like more of a testimony service. If like
Okay.
for instance, you're literally going through a cancer thing, you need somebody to talk to. That's fine, but you're going through your journey, and right now, if you feel up to it, you can share what you know and what you have and how you feel, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like it's a
Mhm.
support system as well. So
Right.
and then people like with their gifts of like writing a book or something, they
Mhm.
have something to share. But
Mhm.
somebody in the community, the community's not like helping the person out. That person may
Right.
be needing to feed their families,
Yeah,
or
family. Yeah.
and yeah, so it's like a stinginess. So
Mm.
what God was showing me was the oil runners. Oil is very rich in the spirit, and he was showing me
Mhm.
a picture of oil and he was pouring it and our hands were out cupped, right? But the
Mm.
oil was
Mm.
putting it on the ground. It was going to the ground,
Go ahead. Mhm.
right? And he goes, that's all your gifts going to the ground. You don't want, that's waste. So you don't,
Mm.
and so then he ended up pouring it into my hands, then into the next person's hands. All of our hands next to each other are cupped so that the oil is literally running through each other. So, so we share the podcast, we share the books, we share all that. Whoever needs that, you don't know where it's going to go in the world, and all those gifts, a homeless
Interesting.
person can help out and as well, whether we're
Right.
sitting there making boxes for somebody or whatever. It is not
Mm.
just to the broadcast. It is literally, you know, our gifts that we are created and have instilled in us. They need to be brought
Mhm.
out and given to the world because we don't want to die and be fat. We want to be empty when we leave,
Mm.
and putting something on this earth that can be,
I
left for
love
the
that.
next generation and whatnot.
I
So
love that.
that's mainly what the broadcast is for. And
And I,
so I ended up
that message is
doing
deep.
that.
I mean, no, that's a really, really deep message. That people, if you might want to play this back a couple of times, just understanding the power of your gift, one, and how you convey and share your gift, so that it's not just falling flat on the ground and falling on deaf ears. Is about being able to contribute to the next person and enriching the next person in the chain, which is for the betterment of us all. And I really love that message through your platform. And it leads me to want to ask too, then, like, as from one show host to another, um,
Mm,
I'm curious to know, how do you approach your storytelling in your broadcast to keep your audience engaged? Because I know that sometimes, some people like comedy, some people like, a little tragedy, a little drama. Some people like some hot takes. So how do you, prepare, or is it really based on your guests or research or whatever? Like I'm just curious to know, as from one host to another.
right now, because I had said earlier, I had no clue about you. So I'm learning as I go.
Right,
But,
right.
so right now what's working is that I allow the guests, I technically follow the guests,
Mhm.
and allow them to tell their story, tell whatever they want. Like I kind of, before we get onto the show, I kind of allow, like, oh, okay, so let me know what you kind of want to go through, so I don't mess up, or if there's anything that you don't want to talk about, and if I accidentally step on that shoe, I apologize. So like we're just gonna avoid it. You know what I mean? If they're ready to speak
Mhm.
on it, that's
Yep.
fine. But it's mainly it's like you said, a barbecue talk kind of thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and if they just want to talk about their career, okay.
Right.
The
Right.
time is theirs, and sometimes I have 30 minutes, sometimes I have 2 hours, sometimes I have an hour,
Right.
who knows, you know what I mean? It
Right.
all depends on the
Right.
person. I'm not going to force the person into something. We're still working that out, but it seems to be working, and I mean, and they feel
Yeah.
comfortable as far as the what I've been hearing back from different
Mhm.
people, and that they heard from that person that they actually enjoyed being on there. So that's like, okay, well, we'll go with that. Finding the niche,
Hey,
like,
hey, right, right.
yeah,
Sometimes you gotta
like,
figure it out as you go along. I get it, and that's why I ask.
yep.
It's always interesting to hear other content creators, podcasters, talk show hosts, just to hear that perspective. Because I mean, I think all of us kind of in that gray space, like you said. Sometimes you just don't know. Sometimes you turn the lights on and here we go. You kind
All
of
right.
take it as it comes, and then for others, you start learning how to kind of curate, like you said, your niche and your craft and your path, and you kind of go, kind of float along with it. So, um, but I from what I've seen and what we've seen, think you're doing a great job, and we want you to continue doing a great job. But before we continue, I want to go ahead and take a moment to take a quick pause for the cause and shout out our two Mike's Up sponsors. Tonight's advertising partner that's bringing this to you is 94 Media House. And we're going to come back with more Christinall Love right after the break. So don't go anywhere. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we fresh back out the break. We back with the Oil Runners broadcast photographer, the amazing Christinall Love. Christi, I have to change change lanes for like a quick second, right? Because
Okay.
we talked beforehand about impact being a big part of what we do here at Two Mics Up, and what impact, if any, because I know your message is about really, uplifting, others. But is there any specific change that maybe you would want to inspire in, maybe a young woman or a young boy who may be watching or listening to you at this time?
A specific change. Um, I that I would want the person to keep persevering.
Mm,
That
love
the no excuses.
it. Mm,
Um, yeah, the excuses have to leave. You
mm,
know, um,
mm,
and because I know if I can sit here and do this, and I have like a bad spine, bad shoulder, I had two neck surgeries, all kinds of stuff, and
wow.
still every 6 months it's a surgery or whatever it
Mm,
is. You don't have to sit, do something that's encouraging, investing in you and
mhm,
investing in others that are positive and doing something for life, and helping the community and whatever it is. You can't just sit and cry about things.
mm.
Like,
I
it
like.
is okay to have feelings, but there's a time and a place for it. But the excuses and the just I wish you can go back a little bit from into the past,
Mm,
and
yeah.
the customer service era and all that
Ooh,
stuff,
ooh,
it's
yeah.
like
Woo. Yeah.
it needs to be brought back a little bit. So just
Yeah.
kind of doing what you got to do, but
Right.
being that best version of yourself, just
Mm.
investing in it, eating healthy and eating. Uh, I mean, I learned my lesson about the whole eating process, like learning about your body, learning about what your bones do, all of that stuff. It will help you, like
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah, that's
Um,
perseverance right there. That's all perseverance right there. Mm.
yeah,
Just
and
learning
being
how
your
to do
own,
right.
yeah, yeah, and
Mm.
being your own advocate. You know,
Yeah.
I had to
Let's
do it
talk
with
about it.
God. I had to learn that lesson the hard way. But your own advocate, like in the hospitals or whatever, if
Mhm.
and finding um, and it's okay to plan out your funeral and all that stuff.
Mm.
Like, please do
Right.
that because I've learned that from patients. Like,
Yeah.
and knowing who's there in your corner, who's not, and there's just so much that we just miss, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and to protect your children and the trauma, the less the trauma, the better.
Mm.
Like,
Mm. I know
I
that's
am a
right.
big I'm a big advocate for like the kids when families I still get upset and I shouldn't as much, but I will fight for a person, but I will fight for a kid even more,
Mm.
especially if their
Mhm.
family like is like fighting and then putting that child in the situation. Now I'll have
Yeah.
something to say. I'll try to stay in my lane, but I'm looking at that child and
Yeah.
because I can see me and having to go through all the
Mm.
mental health problems and all that stuff,
Totally understood.
we don't need to do all that, And so like, and then I had to train up kids throughout those years and then seeing them have their families going at it. And I'm like, look, that's my kid. You can forget it. Like
Mm. You bring up a
you
very
know,
valid point. Like you bring up a valid point. Like how do you, you know, coming from your trauma and coming from your background experiences, and I get it because I too I would be very protective of a child because the child didn't ask to be here, child didn't ask to be put in
right.
that situation. But like you say, sometimes you try to stay in your lane, but how do you broach that or that conversation with others because that is a trigger for you and they don't
Hmm.
understand they may not understand, but how do you broach that conversation with others to educate them on why you're so passionate about that and that trigger?
It's that's still a work in progress, but I have progressed
Mm,
and
mm,
did better. But I try to help. I had to educate myself on how to socialize better, so I could teach
mhm,
the parents how to do it. Like if I was in a daycare setting, because we had to be professional at it,
mhm,
just kind of giving little tidbits of things that could help. And some parents, they didn't care. So
mm,
then I would go to the child and be like, okay, so this is how you handle your stress, like,
mm, mm,
kind of thing. Because
right,
sometimes you can't, the child doesn't know that they're looking to us for help,
right,
and then, I mean, I've seen children get gaslit, all
mm,
that, and
mm,
told that like straight in their face. And I was watching this happen, and I was
mm.
like, oh, I am at work, like, like no.
Right, right,
And the child, he usually, what happened was, is he usually he would act out, and I was the only one that was able to talk to him in a different way because he bit the educator and all
oh
that
wow,
stuff, and I was like, wait,
wow,
whoa,
wow,
hold
wow,
up,
wow, wow.
so yeah, so the mom, like when she came in after I talked to him, he wrote this letter to to the person that he had an issue with, which wasn't the mom. It
Mhm.
was another person that like
Okay,
left. I was like, oh, well, I found
okay,
out the problem, right? We wrote a
gotcha.
letter,
Right,
and then I was like, maybe we could give this to your mom and have her like, talk to her about it and
mhm.
all that stuff. And what she did was she totally blew that whole off. She flipped out on the kid,
Oh, wow, wow.
oh, he's not coming back and blah, blah, blah. I was like, um, okay. And then
That's a lot.
he felt so bad. You know what I mean? This right
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
that upsets me.
The
You
energy,
don't do
the
that to a
energy,
person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then she
That's
flat
tough.
out. He was sitting there watching TV, and then she was saying, "Oh, you're running around and you're causing issues at that moment." And he was like, "No, I'm not." And she goes, "Yes, you are." And he's like, "No, I'm not." And I was like, "Yeah, he's really
Mm,
not." Like, he's
right,
sitting there
right.
watching TV. I was like, "Dang, nabbit." So she's one that didn't want to listen. And I was like, "Okay." So now I had to help the kid deal with his own stuff when he comes back to school. In
Yeah.
a way that it's not upsetting to the. You know what I mean? It had to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
so
Great.
um, helping families deal with their trauma because I have education
Right.
in child behavioral health. So
Mhm.
um, it's it's just helping them learn new coping skills, new new ways, like using the
Yeah.
DBT therapy. It works,
Yeah.
mindfulness and all that stuff, and then that way they can breathe and be like, okay, so I'm in this situation at home. I don't have somebody else to talk to, but
Yeah.
I can do these exercises to help,
Yeah.
and
Those
I mean,
techniques
I'm like,
go a
it's a
long way.
seed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a seed, and if the parents receive it too, that's great. I'm more about the family dynamic, but if unfortunately you got a narcissist on the hand, you can't
Yeah.
get away
Yeah.
from that.
Can't do
Like,
much. You can't do much. Yeah. I
yeah.
tell you, it's a lot. It's a lot, but I thought that was, and I appreciate you sharing that too, because I mean, it just struck me, that trigger action, and sometimes I know it's hard. We all have certain triggers and certain traumas and childhood and adulthood traumas that come along that we
Mm.
all have to learn to deal with. And I'm glad that you were able to share that with us. And as we're coming to the back end of today's conversation, before we close, I want to ask, you mentioned at the top of the show about your photography. So what are the type of things that when you're out and you're taking your walk and you have your camera, what is it, or what are the things that is it something specific, or is it something that you capture, or do you just kind of let it come to you as you're walking, through the last frontier, and just work with your camera? Like, what does a moment look like for you when you have your camera and you're just out relaxing, and taking a breath for yourself?
My moments in Alaska, it's definitely different than like Minnesota or Colorado or anything like that. I mean, technically, but to me, the city has so many people, so much trauma. So it's like a little trigger for me to sit in
Hmm.
there,
Hmm.
and I deal with what I need to, but I call it my no trauma allowed. And there's a certain bridge going from Anchorage, like right there in Anchorage, and it hits Potter Marsh, and we have the ocean in the backyard, or
Hmm. Hmm.
downtown in Anchorage and all that stuff. I got that. So I have my little spots, moose come around, bears come around, wolves come around,
Okay.
all that. So we have all that in Anchorage and anywhere in the Alaska. But
Hmm.
there's it's once you hit that bridge, I actually take a breath in and then I take a breath out as I'm driving underneath that bridge,
Wow.
because and I was like, man, now I'm on vacation. So like,
Wow.
even though the houses I got to go, go up in the mountain real quick to help or whatever, I help people, I help clean houses and all that stuff too and everything. The ocean's on the right side, but my camera's with me all the time. So you never know what you're encountering. So
Wow.
the air is purer, it's like a different atmosphere.
I bet.
So you know how like when they say in the church that you have to create the atmosphere, like set up the atmosphere
Mhm.
is already set up with God out there. It's
Wow.
literally like being in the Garden of Eden,
Mm,
and
mm, mm.
I've seen the scriptures come out and I was like, dang,
That's
if you would have told me God wasn't, that would have got me, and
wow.
sitting up in the mountain, I've encountered that and I understood, in the Bible. I'm like, oh, that's what that meant,
Mm,
and having that experience. But my photography, it stems from um, just finding the smile within,
mm.
within the nature,
That's
and so
beautiful.
I captured bears with a smile. I encounter all of that.
That's
And
beautiful.
a lot of people, they're like, oh, be careful, the bears are going to eat you. No, 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 I sit and I have lunch with them, we're all good. Like,
Mm,
I go up the mountain, I'm with the doll sheep, I'll sit with them and have my lunch. and then I have the ocean out there, and if I'm inspired to take a photo, I will, but I like to find
Mhm.
that little everybody takes a picture of a bear. But what about like the tree that was behind the bear that's neglected,
Mm, mm,
and then trying to
mm.
bring that out and try to capture
Yeah.
that little things, because everybody
Mhm.
is a photographer up here technically, and they want to capture those big things.
You're right.
I still capture them, but when I'm near a photographer, I do have anxiety a little bit, because I have those mental health issues.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But but like the moose. I have a story with a moose where he was sitting there with a stick, and I was thinking that he was eating the stick, right? But he ended up
Mhm.
playing with the stick with me. I was like, okay, it's
Okay.
back in my beginning days, like,
Right.
and then another photographer comes up. The moose and I just stop, just literally stop, and I step back and I let the people do what they got to do because everybody's encounter is different, right?
Mhm.
But I will protect a person swiftly. I will run into a bear. I will run into a moose. I'm not afraid of that, but they have different things. So the moose stopped and he did not play. He did not do anything. This photographer has this big old lens. I'm just, my small lens or whatever. And I like the story. I want that up close. You have to walk up to it kind of thing. And as soon as the photographer left, it was about 10 minutes. And then the moose started moving again, right?
Uh-huh.
And he started playing with the stick again. I said, see, all right, that's what I want,
Yeah, you want yeah,
I think,
yeah. The
you
story
I have my
the story
coffee. I
behind the
go get a
story.
yeah, and then
Mhm.
my whole thing is if it can make you smile, then it's all worthwhile, and giving the
Yeah.
story of that animal because people have a different outlook. A bear helped me um, with my mess and
Mm.
understanding who I am,
I
and
love
it was I have the picture up on my wall, and
I
he
love it.
smiled and he allowed me to go in, but he sat right in front of me. I mean, like this, he could literally swipe me, but he never did.
Right.
And he taught me about humans in such a way that I was like, oh, okay, and now I'm able to go back into society and try this whole thing again. Like,
I love it.
that
I love it.
and I was like, humans can swipe you too, but
Mm. Mm.
he never like told me what he did. He never spoke technically, I'm not that
Yeah,
dumb,
I right,
but
right.
but what I got out of it, because humans would
Right, the
tell
message
me
you
I
got
was
from it, right.
nothing. Right. I was always
Mhm.
nothing and all that stuff, right? And like I'm like the most horrible person, so I always got gaslit somewhere. I wasn't perfect, but I wasn't like what everybody told me I was.
Right.
So the bear decided to allow me in his territory and tell me that I was okay, to
Mhm.
be in his territory. And he's not, I'm okay not to swipe, you know? And I said, huh,
Yeah.
if a bear can tell me that I'm okay and I'm not going to get eaten every single time, then we're good. Moose come up to me,
Hey,
all that, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're the animal whisperer." Well, I mean, I'm not going to try to
that's
take
it.
that title, but
Th those
you
are
know,
great messages of of Thanksgiving, if you will. It is about giving thanks and to be able to be in that presence or those presence of these animals and of nature is a great reason to be thankful. And you've captured that, through your photography. You've captured that through your willingness to give thanks to other through your platform. And I want to commend you for that, and continued success to you, Christina, and the Oil Runners broadcast, your photography, and everything else that you have coming up. And as we're closing out today, I want to give you a moment, you know, if you will, let us know where we can, find you, find your show, where we can find you at online, your social media, whatever it is. We're going to make sure we put that in the show notes so that when we post this and run this, we can go ahead and share that with our audience.
okay. My photography right now, we're working on different things, but Fine Art America is where you can um, go on. I post up on there. Uh, but there's tons of pictures that, I mean, you could buy pictures from there or you could just look at the gallery. It doesn't matter. But I'll be doing some other things with that. I'm working on that stuff. But fineartamerica.com and Christinall Love, this is in the search bar. And then my broadcast is on Oil Runners Broadcast. It's on Facebook. And also, I have a TikTok, which is Christinall.love. And then the videos you can subscribe to on YouTube is Christinall Love 3574. Um, Instagram is just Christinall Love. And I think that's all I have for, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have at this moment. There'll be more, but we're just keeping it at those couple
Well, look,
couple things.
it will
Oh,
continue. Yep. Mhm.
oh, the AK Pure Love Photography is my Facebook as well. And then AK, I also have a business as AK Love Travel and Hospitality Corp. CORP. That's on Facebook as well. We're working on that, but it's going to be. I mean, I'm going to have open to traveling for people to travel, but I'll post
Love that.
more videos. I like to do the Alaska videos real quick, or whatever
I love that.
kind of thing. But I'll put more together on that. But I had to stop it for a second. But it's going to be a big thing on that.
I
But
love it.
yeah,
Yeah,
AK
it
Pure Love
sounds like it.
Photography on
Okay. Well, we're
Facebook.
gonna make sure we capture all of that in our production and make sure we share that with our audience. Add that to the show notes and to our social media as well for you when we run the official promos and advertising for this episode. And Christina, I thank you for your time this afternoon in Alaska and for being such a gracious and amazing person. Continued success to you and all your future projects and endeavors that you decide to put your hands on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and I appreciate you having me on your show. It means a lot.
Oh, it's our honor and our pleasure to have you on. And like we always tell all of our guests, you part of the two Mike's Up family now. So anytime you got a new project or anything and we can work out some time and some details, you're always welcome to come back and we can do it all over again and talk about that project. Okay.
Oh, absolutely, much appreciated.
Definitely,
And
definitely.
the
So there.
same invitation comes up on my end for you as
Hey, I'm
well.
I'm
So,
ready. I'm ready whenever you are. All we gotta do, we can sit down, we'll talk. And I'm ready. I'm ready to come down, come through and talk with you. I'm all for it.
okay, it'll be on Zoom.
No problem. Well, you know how my problem is with Zoom, but if you're running the controls and all I gotta do is show up and talk, we can make it happen.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Uh,
Thank you.
thank you so much. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of Two Mics Up, Thanksgiving edition. Man, we covered it all on how to give thanks. We went through a journey, trauma, life, new life, rebirth. I hope that you all find that, somewhere in your hearts to continue to give and to forgive, not only yourself, but others. We live in a really crazy time in a really crazy world right now. And the more that we can give of ourselves to others, I think the better we all will be in the long run. And Christina was the perfect guest today for this conversation for us to be able to hopefully open our eyes and see that. So I hope you all walk away with that little tidbit. And I thank you for joining us. I'm your man, Dave DNYDC. This is Two Mics Up, Season 7. We are on the Mogul TV Global Network, the number one network for positive programming. And you're watching this on my channel, my new channel, Infusion TV. Man, we bring it, man. We got 5 new shows out. Hey, if you're a content creator and you're looking to expand your brand on the number one network that's in 45 countries and counting, let me know. I'll talk to you. I'm looking to bring on content creators and make it happen. So thank you all. May you all have a safe and great holiday season and enjoy your Thanksgiving with your family. And until I see you again, you know what I'm gonna leave you with, those 3 things. May you all stay safe, stay blessed. Mike's out.
007.